I've watched and read the entire DanDaDan anime and manga, and here are 35 almost illegal DanDaDan facts that they really do not want you to know. Like, did you know, in the Chinese version of DanDaDan, almost all scenes involving tatas have been highly censored yet again, making the online populace go on a rampage, stating that boobs are a threat to the Chinese Communist Party. Hence the censoring. There are many instances of censoring, even in the official rendering of the manga, but in this case, there has been a reverse censoring, as you can see with Seiko holding her granddaughter in this panel. She has nothing in her hand, whereas in the anime, she has a cigarette between her fingers. Moving on in the manga, one of the worst fears of our childhood was brought to reality as Okarun gets possessed while doing his business in the toilet seat. And while the art in the manga was fabulous, it didn't quite catch the seriousness of the situation like the anime with the red hue did. And speaking about the red hue, you might have noticed that unlike in the other anime, the art style of DanDaDan is all over the place, as each villain they face, the saturation color, and even the animation style changes a bit. Bluish hue for the Serpoians, fiery red for Turbo Granny, and black mist for Flatwood's monster were all different from one another. This could also be due to the extraterrestrial elements literally bending the laws of physics. But for the author, Yukinobu Tatsu, that is not new, as he was the assistant artist in Chainsaw Man, and is well aware of crafting mind-bending characters, for whom bending space-time reality would be nothing. But coming a bit back to episode 1, there was a slightly coy reference to One Piece in the animation, where Momo does the infamous Doflamingo walk while going around in the school hallway. And talking about Doflamingo, how could we stray away from politics? Which takes us to our next fact related to Barack Obama?
Yeah.
In the first rendering of the manga, when Okarun tries to talk to Momo about aliens, his magazine had the photo of the former President Barack Obama. But in the anime, it was changed to Donald Trump. The animation director must be a Republican. Also, if you look over the first fight between the two grannies in episode 3, the large earrings that Seiko wears are missing, which are present in the manga. There is only one reason to exclude them, and that is time for animation, as animating the ever-jiggling earrings would take more time and effort. And while that fight is taking place, there is another detail that you might have missed, which is different in the anime and manga. In the manga, when Turbo Granny is captured, she stays completely inside the circle. However, in the anime, she rubs her head and hands on the barrier, creating flames so as to intimidate Seiko. And trust me, Seiko kind of feels like the protagonist of the whole series because she is badass. Another thing I found interesting about her style is that she seems heavily inspired by Bayonetta from the game series of the same name, because both the characters are extremely beautiful and packed with power. And yeah, one more fact about our alluring granny is that the bat she uses isn't from the dollar store. It's a special spirit bat that also has a retractable pencil, which she uses to draw barriers and trap spirits. As I said earlier, the author has already worked on Chainsaw Man as a junior artist, which is why you can see also the eerie resemblance between the protagonists of the two manga, especially their teeth, which cover almost 2/3 of their faces. And would you believe it if I said this Granny Seiko is 80 years old?
What the f?
Yeah, only Japanese people can use grannies for fan service. I hate myself. Those sleepless nights were for this old hag. Now, we've talked a lot about Granny Seiko, but before she even arrived on the scene in episode 3, many parts had to be censored from the manga, as Turbo Granny literally held Momo by her legs while she was unconscious, which kinda revealed much of what she was wearing below, and that too from a very weird angle. However, not everything that the anime changed wasn't NSFW, as in the manga, the author used the chibi character many times in his panel to explain the premise. However, they were completely forgotten, or rather omitted. Now, while discussing the ghosts shown in the story, it's revealed that Turbo Granny was also known as the 100 kilometers an hour Granny. However, one thing that the lore of Turbo Granny also holds true is that she was known to comfort the souls of girls who had been unjustly killed or had untimely deaths. Also, this isn't the first time that Turbo Granny has been featured exclusively in an anime, and I think you might have guessed where she could be found instead. And the answer is Mob Psycho. Mob Psycho did feature an an episode where Mob encountered the legendary Turbo Granny in a tunnel, while Arataka claimed that she would latch on their backs and break their necks if she caught on to them. In the end, she just turned out to be a normal human. And talking about normality, the author threw it out of the window right from the very first chapter, but it had a reason behind it. You see, Yokinobu Tatsu got serious rejections for his first 3 serialization attempts, which made him depressed. So, with a push from his former editor, he began drawing without a storyline, finally settling in with aliens and spirits as the primary force. In an interview with a real conspiracy theory magazine in Japan known as Super Mystery Magazine Moo, which by the way is also mentioned in the manga, Tatsu revealed that he considers spirits and aliens as 2 sides of the same coin, which is also the reason that Flatwood's monster was able to trigger the doorbell. Also, aliens and spirits aren't the only supernatural forces that are discussed in the story. Recently, an alleged alchemist had also been added by the mangaka, which is based on the real-life example of Count Saint-Germain. This mysterious figure has been spotted in almost all events of political importance in Europe and is supposedly alive as you watch this video. And if you're in the world of DanDaDan, the immortal alchemist should be the least of your worries, as it also deals with other modern-day hoaxes and legends, like the man that comes in everyone's dreams, the Loch Ness Monster, and even the terrifying Dover Demon. However, as I said, sci-fi and action aren't the only genres Tatsu has previously dealt in, as after the recommendation by his editor to read and create a story in a new genre, the mangaka read 100 rom-com series and by the end was able to draw a one-shot by the name of the Love Cultivation Method. And going back to one of the facts I already explained about the anime not using the chibi emotes that the author used in the manga, the idea to just use dialogues and the chibi emotes was an inspiration Tatsu drew while reading the rom-coms. And while not the most amazing, the last fact about the author we have is that he's very old school, as he still relies on the traditional paper and ink method to draw his manga, while most of the authors have switched to digital. However, his assistants do help him to convert it to digital later on, all while correcting minor mistakes. Okay, but enough with the boring facts, let's talk about balls. And to be specific, Okarun's balls. And yeah, I'm not coming out of the closet. It's just that Okarun's balls are considered golden in the manga. And it's due to the fact that the balls are pronounced as Kintama in Japanese, whose kanji roughly translates to golden balls. And since the anime started with the aim of getting Okarun's balls back, it kinda makes sense that his balls be called golden. Also, for the last time, I'm not coming out of the closet. Now, we know that fans love this anime, but there is also a reason to hate it for some people. You see, DanDaDan doesn't have a good base of villains and relies on random aliens with no backstories as fodder. However, this was actually stated to have been done intentionally by the mangaka, as he wanted a medium to progress the story without prolonging it with backstories. And whenever required, the manga does delve into a sad past of many of its characters. Also, DanDaDan did its pre-screening in theaters, where they displayed the first 3 episodes, which are already streaming on Netflix as of making this video. This is one of those rare times when a not-so-established anime went directly for a theater screening, which only speaks for its awesome story. Back in the very first episode, we see Momo removing the talisman, but actually, that is a very specific talisman that is called Ofuda, which is built specifically by the shrines to keep yokais away. Also, as Okarun enters the shrine after almost being burned to death, Momo does the same exaggerated body movements a baseball referee does when a runner safely reaches the spot. That was quite funny, actually. In any case, some hardcore gamers in our community pointed out that Momo also had a Super Famicom in her room, which could explain her weird 8-bit Mega Man running style later on while facing the Flatwoods monster. Another cool fact I noticed while watching the first episode was that even though the Serpoians were highly advanced, they accepted that even they didn't have the ability to teleport through mobile phones as Turbo Granny did right before their eyes. And talking about the Serpos, they claimed that they actually were clones. However, we see differences in them during their said procedure on Momo, as all 3 had different lights in their eyes, blue, the other being pink, and lastly yellow. During Okarun's flashback, one small detail was the drawing of the alien behind him and how it faded away as he grew up. This was actually a play on how his belief in aliens grew transparent, as he found no evidence of them even after trying so hard. Also, while the Serpos were experimenting, they somehow awakened Momo's powers and later confirmed that chakra points were actually real and that they had awakened Momo's chakra due to overstimulating it. Lastly, Honestly, this anime has broken the age-old tradition of the characters having the same clothes throughout the series, as the characters change clothes during almost all major scenes. Subscribe!